All right, are we ready for takeoff? I've got 6:30. I'll call to order this meeting of the Columbus Common Council. This is our regular meeting for Tuesday, August 4th. We are using the Zoom interface for people to be able to participate remotely, as well as staff and council that's present at City Hall. With that, Pat, could you please take a roll call for us?
Adams?
Here.
Gray? Gray?
Present.
Thank you. McCabe is excused. Piperone?
Here.
Reed?
Here.
Ryan?
Here.
Tome?
Here. Thank you. If able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, this meeting has been noticed in accordance with state statutes and local ordinances. Next item is to approve the agenda for the evening. We have a fairly brief agenda.
Okay.
Unless there's any alterations or deletions, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Alder Piper will make a motion to approve the agenda.
Ryan, second.
Got a motion in 2 seconds to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Correspondence and communication, we did not have anyone signed up in person this evening, and my understanding is people that wanted to participate via Zoom would need to contact the clerk by noon today. Has anyone contacted you? Okay. Clerk indicates no one has contacted her. So we have no correspondence and communications for the evening. We'll move on to the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have the Council and Committee of the Whole meeting minutes for July 21st, 2020, and there are no applications for operators' licenses. Any questions on the consent agenda? If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Piper will second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as submitted. Any discussion on the motion? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Move on to new business, item number 1, which is consider and take action on the acceptance of donation from Eugene and Niehoff Estate to the Fire Department. This was reviewed by the council at the last Committee of the Whole meeting with Chief Randy Keene. Eugene Niehoff Estate has donated $20,000 to the fire department for the purpose of refurbishing the fire department's antique 1925 American LaFrance pumper truck. It's a generous donation. I believe the fire department's hoping to restore the old pumper to possibly display at the new fire station. Any questions on the donation? If there's no further questions, I'll entertain a motion to accept the donation.
Reed motions to accept the gift from the Eugene Niehoff Estate for the fire department as presented.
Piper will second that.
We have a motion and a second to accept the $20,000 donation from Eugene Niehoff Estate to the fire department. Any discussion on that motion? If none, could we please take a roll call, Pat?
Adams?
Aye.
Gray?
Aye.
Piperone?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. New business number 2, consider and take action on ordinance 753-20, sewer use ordinance, language updated to reflect industrial discharge permitting. This was also reviewed at the last Committee of the Whole. This, I believe, is a update to the ordinance to try to reflect the high-strength users, industrial-type users, and update that language. I did watch a little bit of the meeting, and I know there were a few comments. I think, Pete, you had some concerns about specific language about who was doing the testing, et cetera. I've tried to read through the ordinance myself. While I'm not an attorney, I I feel like the attempt here is to kind of put the onus onto the permit holders to kind of take care of the expenses to do that, but I don't see any exclusion where the city wouldn't be able to check in, I guess, and make sure that everything is being complied with. Did you have any more questions about that, Pete?
No, yeah, just follow up. You could see in section 102-236, the right of entry. So a duly authorized employee of the city bearing proper credentials can enter the properties for the purpose of inspection, observation, and testing, all in accordance with the provisions. And then you jump to 102-272. So the industrial waste that's discharged into the public sewer shall be subject to periodic inspection and determination of character and concentration of the waste. The determination shall be made by the industry as often as may be deemed necessary by the approving authority. And then it goes into sampling and everything like that. So basically, we have some wiggle room. The city has wiggle room to get in there and do some testing. I would like to, just to put the super sewer users on notice that we will be exercising that right. Because in my mind, if the industry is doing their own testing, sampling, and reporting, that's almost like the fox guarding the hen house. And I want to remove that temptation from them. So I don't know how we want to work this, whether it's random, at least 4 times a year, 2 times a year that we'll be going in and sampling, or if we just take it away from them completely and just say, hey, we'll do all the sampling. But at some point, I don't, it's like a trust but verify thing. So that's where I stand on that.
Okay. I did notice in the section you read to 102-272, subsection B, I believe any question about the sampling can be questioned by the approving authority, and also the section below that, 102-273 analysis, subsection B, requiring by the approving authority may also make its own analysis on the waste as well.
Who's the approving authority?
Would assume it's the wastewater treatment staff.
Okay,
Yep.
so they have some controls there.
I believe so, and I believe the idea here is they've built some relationships with these industrial users over the last couple of years. I know that this has taken some time to put together, I think John's been at the plant long enough that if he sees a problem, he can actually see it at the plant and probably
jump
has
back
an
forth.
idea of where to trace it back to, and this is basically getting them to install the systems and the sampling methods internally at their expense, rather than having our staff kind of constantly go out and monitor all of them. So I would think, knowing John, that he's trying to stay ahead of this, where we could have
Okay.
a heavy load coming into the system and it costs more to process that stuff, that I think he's gotten buy-in from these industries and understands what we're all trying to go after. I mean, I guess I could ask Attorney Johnson, do you feel like we're giving anything up in here by not having a specific language that states that we can randomly sample, or is that already inferred?
I think it's already inferred, and I think the language in here covers what Alder Adams is concerned about. If there's a perceived issue, the city has the right to do its own sampling or do some checkup.
Okay.
My concerns are assuaged. I was just
Sure.
wanted to really hammer that home, that, the trust but verify thing.
Yep, I
Okay.
completely understand that. All right, is there anything else anyone wanted to add to that before considering adoption of the new ordinance? All right, if there are no Jason, please.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to throw a couple comments on there. Paul had cleaned up some format on this, so from the last time you guys had seen it. So I just want to, it doesn't change substance, it's just the order of how, everything is kind of formatted. We did remove the Public Works Committee references. I just want to make everybody aware that we did incorporate that from last time. And then I did note that you guys were in the right section here. It does allow access to the city and our right to do the testing, and those costs are covered by the industry. So it is, if there's any costs incurred, that is borne back by them for us to do that verification that Pete had mentioned. I would also note that these industries are also required to have permits through the state, so they already are permitted and they are doing testing, and they are being basically checked by the state as well. But this gives us a little bit more of a hold for us to know what's going on, because we're not always part of that chain of, that loop of when that permit is issued. We don't control that permit. So we want to make sure that the state's not approving something or authorizing something or okay with something where we may not be, because we're operating the plant, receiving the waste, so we know what our limits are. The state really doesn't. They're just looking for threshold limits that they can't be exceeding at the state level. So again, there is kind of a check and balance on the state side as well, that they do have to do the sampling and report to the state as well. So I guess they could be malicious and, you know, be trying to dupe everybody, but I would think that, you know, pulling their permits would put them out of business too, so. So anyways, other than that, I just wanted to report back on those couple other loose ends, just to make sure. Oh, one last thing, I did have a note here. Grease interceptors, that was brought up last time in section 102-276. Had initially had a paragraph in there, and we did expand that to require that all grease interceptors be pumped and inspected at least a minimum of one time per year, and any maintenance to those not functioning properly have to be remedied. They have to keep records, and then we have that access to monitor that and look at that. So that, I think, was another comment that came up last time, and we wanted to make sure that we incorporated it. I mean, we're going through the ordinance adoption. We might as well try and catch as much of it as we can. So we did pull that in as well. So I don't know if you guys picked up on that we expanded the language for 102-276. So
Thank you. Go ahead, Trina.
Oh, since you just mentioned that section, I'm looking at the sentence, grease interceptors shall be installed outside the building, upstream from sanitary sewer service lateral connection. Outside of what building?
wherever they're required. So those would be buildings when we do site plan reviews, when facilities are installed. I had mentioned before, I believe it was Countryside Ford's required to have one. There's several of them out at Ottery Truck Wash, and then any new restaurant or type of facility that would come in, or business that would come in that would require some type of a cooking or a restaurant piece. We would require those on the site plan approval process, so those would be the buildings. So it would be whatever that facility is.
Oh, thank you. I guess my question was more, should the word outside be there? I've definitely seen some indoor grease traps before.
It's for accessibility and for maintenance and cleaning. You know, we'd prefer them to be outside because then they can certainly be accessed and observed as well. I mean, if they're in facilities, they may be locked or, you know, inside, you know, where we don't have access to them. So I think from the city's perspective, outside would be our preference.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Jason while he's up? I see none. Also, Pete, just so you're aware, the last couple pages of this where it shows the meter size, monthly charge, et cetera, that stuff has been updated recently in the last few years because we do have to go through a process with the wastewater utility as part of the bond covenants where we have to do a rate study. It's required by the DNR. So it's not like we can't look back at this when we look at the rate study to see if we need to tweak things in the ordinance. And we actually did just a couple years ago because I think we had some fairly archaic language in there related to high-strength waste users, et cetera, and that, I think, kind of inspired this next step of going through and refreshing the entire ordinance, so. Yep. Oh, sorry. Ian, go ahead.
So a quick note, while it's awesome everyone's wearing masks, it is exceptionally difficult to hear you every time you move your face away from your microphone. I know it's totally human nature to look at each other when talking, but no one outside of that room can hear you whenever you move away from the microphone. It sounds like an episode of Charlie Brown when the teacher's talking.
Okay. Thank you, Ian. And you're referring to everybody that's speaking into a microphone here?
Yes, I can hear you when you're facing your microphone, and as soon as you turn to talk to each other, it's like an episode of the Peanuts.
Okay, thank you. Is that microphone on?
Yes.
Okay. But these microphones are also feeding into the Zoom somehow?
I believe this microphone is catching the speaker.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you, Ian. We'll try to be cognizant of that. Okay, back to ordinance number 753-20. Were there any further questions on that? If there are no questions and the council wishes to adopt it this evening, we would first have to suspend the rules and then also waive the reading and then adopt. So first, I would take a motion to suspend the rules, if that's the will of the council.
Alder Ryan, I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
Piper will second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. Any discussion on the motion? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, rules have been suspended. Then we would need a motion to waive reading.
Alder Piper will make a motion to waive the reading.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to waive the reading. Any discussion on that motion? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, and then we're ready for adoption of ordinance number 753-20.
Alder Ryan, I'll make a motion for the adoption of the ordinance of number 753-20, the sewer use ordinance, language update, to reflect industrial discharge permitting.
Alder Piper will second that.
All right, we have a motion in 2 seconds to adopt ordinance 753-20, the sewer use ordinance update, language updated to reflect the industrial discharge permitting. Any discussion on the motion? If there's no further discussion, could you please take a roll call, Pat?
Gray,
Aye.
Piperone,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Adams,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you. All right, on to number 3, consider and take action on resolution 11-20, compliance maintenance annual report for 2019, otherwise known as the CMARS report for the wastewater treatment plant. As usual, looks like they've got straight A's again this year, which isn't abnormal for the wastewater treatment plant. If you've taken the time to go through and look at the report, it's quite thorough and addresses virtually every aspect of the wastewater treatment plant's activities. Any questions on the CMARS report? I see no questions. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution 11-20.
Alder Piper will make a motion to approve resolution 11-20.
Alder Adams seconds.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution 11-20 to adopt the CMARS report for 2019. Any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, could we please take a roll call on that, Pat?
Piperone,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Adams,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you. On to number 4, consider and take action on the Wisconsin Election Commission CARES subgrant application. This was reviewed at the last committee of the whole. Pat brought this forward. It is a grant through the State Elections Commission. Looks like approximately $3,677 in the form of a grant to help us with the election this November. To help with postage for absentee ballots, additional envelopes, election supplies, etc. Pat states she'll have no problem going through that grant money to help offset the cost of the election. Any questions? All right, I think the appropriate way to adopt this then would just be to adopt the attached resolution, which is 13-20.
Alder Ryan, I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution 13-20.
Alder Adams seconds.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 13-20, resolution to participate in the 2020 HAVA Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security CARES Subgrant Program. Any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, could you please take a roll call, Pat?
Piperone,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Adams,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you. On to number 5, consider change of agent for Dollar General alcohol license. This is just some general housekeeping where there's a change of agent needed for Dollar General. The schedule of the successor of agent is for Imran Khan, IMRANKHAN. Looks like everything checked out on the application to change the agent. Any questions for Pat on that? If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the change of agent for Dollar General alcohol license.
Alder Pifron will make a motion to consider change of agent for Dollar General alcohol license.
Alder Adams seconds.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the change of agent for Dollar General alcohol license. Any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Number 6, mayoral appointments to boards, committees, and commissions. There are names on both sides of the piece of paper. On the front, we have the citizen appointments to the boards, committees, and commissions. I have Nathan Anfinson appointed to the Board of Review to fill the remainder of a 5-year term expiring in 2024. Alan Agnew for the Park and Recreation Advisory Board for a 3-year term. Heather Stanton to the CAAC Advisory Board to fill a vacated seat expiring in 2021, and Deja Rasmussen to the CAAC Advisory Board for a 3-year term. And on the other side, just a little housekeeping, appointing Pete Adams to the Water and Light Commission. I had kind of double booked President Ryan to the Water and Light Commission and the Plan Commission, and spoke to both of them. And Katie was okay with having Pete appointed to the Water and Light Commission, and also appointing Pete to the Ordinance Revision Ad Hoc Committee, which has not met in some time. And also a bit of housekeeping, Bob Geenan, who is our new City Finance Director, would need to be appointed to the Investment Board. Any questions on the appointments? If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the mayoral appointments.
Alder Ryan, I'll make a motion to approve the mayoral appointments as stated.
Reed seconds.
A motion and a second to approve the mayoral appointments. Any discussion on that? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Let's see, consider and take action on claims in the amount of $436,614.89. Are there any questions on the claims packet? No questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the claims in the amount read.
Alder Adams moves to approve the claims in the amount written.
Alder Pifron seconds that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the city claims in the amount of $436,614.89. Any discussion on that? If there's no discussion, Pat, could you please take a roll call for us?
Reed,
Aye.
Ryan, Adams,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye.
Piperone,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you. On to report of city officers. Kyle, I'll turn it over to you first.
All right, thank you. Just a quick update on Hibbert Street. That project obviously started this week. Trees are being removed, and they may have completed as soon as today. So the tree removal has mostly been complete, and in the next couple days, it's likely you will see traffic control put in place, and some additional work may start, construction work may start later this week already. And we'll be talking about the schedule in the next meeting. So this is all good news for getting the project kind of done in a condensed time. There's also an election next Tuesday. The poll hours are from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And obviously the voting is at the Columbus Senior Center. With the restrictions we have in place, there will be no more than 25 people in the room or in the building at one time. So that includes poll workers, observers, and electors. You'll be entering the polls through the Senior Center parking lot entrance, and we'll have staff there, I believe, to kind of help
guide you through the process. Face coverings are not required, but they're recommended for those casting the ballot. But all other personnel working at the polls, including observers, will be required to comply with the emergency order. Observers will also be limited to 2 people every 3 hours if there's a waiting list. Electors still have to be registered and provide photo ID to receive the ballot. And registration and early voting will be ending this Friday at 5 p.m. And again, registration will be available on Election Day, and proof of residence will be required. So we're encouraging people to vote, vote absentee or early if you can. If you do have any questions, you can contact the city clerk, Pat, at City Hall. The races that are on the ballot are the representative to the United States Congress, a state assembly representative, and then a whole variety of county offices. So again, please remember to vote on Tuesday. We also have a recruitment underway for the DPW admin assistant position, and applications are due for that on August 16th. So if you know anyone that might be interested, please mention that to them. And department heads are busy working on their 2021 budget requests, and they're making good progress on that. But in that whole budget process, the state's actually released some of their preliminary numbers. So we're starting to get that preliminary picture of what next year's numbers are going to look like. And so the net new construction, everything that was basically built in the 2019, that's credited as of January 1st of 2020, that was a number higher than $7 million, which is a very good number, and was actually the highest in the entire county. No other municipality raised more than $7 million. So I thought that was encouraging news. On the other side of that, we had a substantial decrease in value in the TID districts, which we were sort of anticipating. We lost about 25% of our value, and there was an error in a form that was submitted to the Department of Revenue by a manufacturing company. And so as they corrected their error, that eliminated about $10 million. There was also a small amount of commercial land devaluation in TID 4. TID 3. TID 4 was the manufacturing error. But on the bright side, the entire municipality had all property increased by an average of about 6% year over year. So overall, the preliminary numbers are really encouraging, and hopefully that gets us a good start on the budget year. And that's all I had.
Thank you, Kyle. First, I wanted to thank Council President Katie Ryan for filling in for me at the last meeting. I kind of had a planned absence, and it's been a month since I've been here, so it's nice to break away a little bit. I appreciate that. You did a great job, Katie. Thank you. Also wanted to mention that there's some information out on the city website about a contest to name the new street sweeper. The contest runs August 3rd through August 24th, 3 p.m. deadline on the 24th. Entries must be submitted via email at columbusdpw@columbuswisconsin.us. I know there's a link on the city website, and it's been shared on the city's social media pages as well. Names will be judged on creativity, relevance to public works, and memorability, and the winner will be announced at the September 1st, 2020 City Council meeting. The winner will receive a ride in the newly named street sweeper plus a $50 gift card to a local Columbus Chamber business of choice. Yes. I haven't submitted mine yet, but I'm definitely going to. I want to ride in that thing. And I just wanted to let the council know that I'll need to leave at approximately 8 p.m. tonight for a rescheduled overnight procedure. So if we keep up this pace, we may be able to get through the whole meeting. So that's all I had. Thank you. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Alder Ryan, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Alder Adams seconds.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? We'll stand adjourned for just a few minutes and return with the committee of the whole meeting. Thank you.
like Michelle shaking her head. I got a message earlier from another one of the people, like, you really need to talk into your mics. Absolutely everything that Kyle said, we heard like 2 words. I can hear it right now. I can hear people. Yes, I can
Can you hear us, Amy?
Yep, we're here.
Okay, great. Just double checking. Good evening and welcome to the Columbus Common Council's Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, August 4th, of 2020. The time is now 7:07 p.m. We are in City Hall chambers here in Columbus. We also have Ian Gray, Alder District 1, participating via Zoom, as well as other city staff members via Zoom as well. Pat, with that, would you please take the roll call?
Adams,
Present.
Gray,
Present.
McCabe is excused, Piperone,
Present.
Reed,
Here.
Ryan,
Here.
Tome.
Here.
Okay. This meeting has been noticed with the proper state statutes and local ordinances. Number 3 is a motion, or I'll take a motion to approve the agenda if there are no amendments.
Alder Piperno will make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion on the motion? There's no discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Number 4 is citizen comments, and due to the health crisis going on, we have asked that anybody wanting to participate in citizen comments email or call our city clerk, Pat, by noon of the day of the meeting, in this case today, August 4th. And this evening, we actually have Amy Jo Myers and Kane Roskowski, hope I pronounced that correctly, signed up to make citizen comment. Amy Jo?
Good evening.
Good evening. Can you hear us?
I have Kane with me, and we are just wanting to walk through. Can you hear us?
Yep, yep.
Hello? Okay. Kane's going to run by the CAC 2020 closing plan that we have in place. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so obviously we opened June 22nd, and just looking at everything going on with kids going back to college. We have some kids going back quite early, private school kids, and then obviously kids that are trying to get all packed up and set up. And then we also have a lot of kids that are currently in sports. We're not 100% sure if Columbus School District will run them. But looking at everybody's availability, our goal date now is going to be August 16th with everything going on. Part of the reason there is me and Amy Jo, we just don't want to see any of our staff that's worked really hard, get sick a week and a half before they go off to college. And, with that, we'll run the current weekday hours, the 11 to 2, 2:30, 5:30, 6:30, 8:30, and then weekends. The only difference there is at 6 to 8:30. So we'll keep all the hours the same. But, closing on August 16th is the best option to keep everybody, all of our staff, and even the patrons safe and healthy. And then it also opens up the door for us to get some different contractors in there to finish different projects with the slide, and then also some leak repairs and detection. So, like I said, goal date is that August 16th mark. Anybody got any questions?
Okay, thank you. With this item not being on the agenda and you guys just speaking under citizen comment, I don't think that we can technically allow a back and forth discussion or ask any questions directly.
Okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Pat, there was nobody else signed up or nobody else contacted you by noon today? Okay. Okay. Moving on then, we have number 5 is the committee minutes. Within the packet, we have the committee minutes from the Cable Commission from June 3rd of 2020, the Columbus Water and Light from minutes from April 16th and June 18th of 2020, the library minutes from April 21st, 2020, and May 19th, 2020, Plan Commission from February 20th of 2020, and May 21st, 2020. The CDA from February 24th and May 18th of this 2020, CHLPC from July 9th and July 23rd, 2020, the PFC from February 17th of 2020, and the Tourism Commission from April 13th of 2020. Is there any discussion on the committee minutes? Seeing none. Okay. We'll move on to number 6, is review and discuss the 2020 crack seal bid recommendations. There's some info in the packet, and then we have Jason Letha, the city engineer, here to head us off on that. Hi, Jason.
So I apologize, you get me for the next 4 items.
Yes.
So the crack sealing program is part of the annual street maintenance program. I think the memo that was put together explains it pretty well. There's initial $75,000. We work with staff and engineering to sit down and kind of identify the needs based off our street rating that we do every other year. And we have a program where we tend to do crack sealing 1 year, and then the subsequent year we tend to follow up and slurry seal or cover up those roads so we get them sealed good. That way it's kind of a 1-2 punch to maintain these roads. We know that maintaining them extends the life of the roads significantly. It's been proven. And so the city has done a fantastic job over the last, say, 10 years of funding these maintenance improvements. So with that being said, we put out bids for the crack seal component of this. There is some information in a recommendation letter here as a result of the bids. We did do a base bid. If you look on the detailed bid tabulation sheet, you can see the base bid was crack sealing of Avalon Road, Fountain Street, and Dawn Court. And then there was some alternate bids in there, which were candidates if we had sufficient funds. We'd estimate the crack sealing at $13,980 in our engineering estimate. We had 2 bids, one for $6,480, one for $9,050. With that, they came in less. We will get to the slurry seal budget, but that came in slightly more. So we kind of looked at these as a package because it's a single budget, and we kind of wanted to divvy it up. So based on the results, we were recommending taking Thunder Road LLC for the $6,480 with no alternate bids. Again, the reason we wanted to withhold some money back in the budget, not accept these alternate bids, ultimately is that we are also doing a county aid project as part of the street maintenance, which is finishing the overlay project on Waterloo Street from last year. We have about 475 feet left, and we do have pricing on that from the county, and we do have the county aid applying to that project. But we also want to use some of the money in the street maintenance budget to help offset or supplement those costs for the county aid project, because it is more than the county aid that we do receive from the county. So this is kind of all a package deal, so it kind of makes sense when you look at it as a whole. But our recommendation after meeting with staff was to take the base bid for the crack seal of the $6,480 for this contract for the crack seal. We did have 2 bidders. Both bidders are qualified. Both bidders have bid in the past historically for the city. And again, you can see that the prices did come in very favorable. So any questions on this this bid item or agenda item, I mean?
Just a small question. I was wondering if asphalt or some other material is at a particularly reasonable price at this moment. Just wondering how the crack sealing came in at half of the expected price.
Yeah, so that's probably on me. When we estimate costs, we do a quick inspection of the road. What we do is we look at total length of crack and we estimate a unit price. The way we bid this out, so we don't have to actually measure every crack to ensure that we know what we're paying for, we just have a lump sum price from, say, intersection to intersection. I may have looked at a section of road and estimated more crack sealing. We do have a requirement of like an 1/8 inch gap crack. When they looked at it, they may have thought that there was actually less crack than I did to fill. They still have a specification or requirement they have to meet. But again, I tend to be a little conservative when I overestimate it. And I would imagine that, you know, probably the other factor is it probably was competitive. I'm guessing that they are fairly low, so I'm guessing they were looking for work. So between the two, we can be off a little bit, but I think very favorable pricing means that there's probably availability with the contractors right now.
Thank you, always good.
Any other questions for Jason on the crack ceiling before he heads into, before I guess we move on and he stays there, on to number 7, which is review and discuss the slurry seal bid recommendations.
Okay, so this is the second piece of maintenance project. Again, this is the slurry seal, so it's a emulsion with just chip seal included in it. It's not a pea gravel or a traditional chip seal. We've been doing slurry seal in and around the city for many, many years. This does coat the road, cover it up, protects it, seals it, and obviously that wears really well over the years, but you know, after 10 years you can see where we've scratched it off in a lot of places around the city. Again, this is the 1-2 punch. We usually follow up with the streets we crack sealed the previous year. In this particular case, we had 2 bids, one from Farner Asphalt for $52,090 and one from Struck and Irwin Paving for $54,823. Very similarly, we do these by lump sum from the street segments that we list. We did estimate this at $47,000, so you can see they came in at about $52,000, so we were a little higher here. Also, we did have an alternate bid here that we did include to see if we got favorable pricing. We are not recommending the alternate bid for this either. We're just looking at the base bid. Again, keep in mind that gives us some contingency funds to use towards the county aid project, which we believe we will need all of those funds if we don't accept any alternate bids. The slurry seal projects that we are proposing under the base bid would be South Lewis Street from James to Fuller. So again, basically all of South Lewis between the 2 major connecting roads. So there's like 6 blocks in there or something, so quite a stretch. We did crack seal that all last year. West Harrison Street, there's a block from Maine to Birdsey. That was a block that wasn't previously slurry sealed when the surrounding roads were slurry sealed. That was kind of one of the leftovers. That was from paving in 2007, so it's certainly due. Main Street from Harrison to James, same scenario as West Harrison. It was just kind of leftover block. Ridgeview from Avalon to the terminus, so that's going out into the Kestrel Ridge subdivision. Richmond Street from Birdsey to Maine, again a 1-block stretch. And then Washington Street from Charles to Lewis, that's a 1-block stretch. So all of those sections that we estimated here are areas that have recently been crack sealed and have pavement that's probably in that 7 to 10 to 12 year old range. And so those are great candidates to cover up to extend the life of those. So we are recommending the base bid for Farner in the amount of $52,000. What that gives us is a balance of about $16,400. Add that to the county aid project, and that gets us pretty close to what we need to do the mill and overlay of Waterloo Street. And again, that's that 475-foot stretch between the 2 projects we had last year. So essentially, if you're familiar with Waterloo, it's basically from William Street down towards Folsom. There's a section in there kind of past School Street that didn't get overlaid last year. So we'd like to do that because then we essentially have all of Waterloo overlaid in the last 2-year period, and we know that that's obviously been a discussion about the condition of that over the years. So any questions on the slurry seal?
Ian?
So I noticed that Thunder Road was for the previous discussion, but do they not do the slurry seal? Is there a reason we don't, is that the reason we don't have a bid from them on that?
They do not, and historically, we've tried to bid this contract out as one contract, Ian, and what's happened is, very few of the providers actually do both. Farner does. We actually invited another contractor that had not picked up a plan to bid with Scott, and they actually pulled the bid but chose not to submit on this. So we broke it out a few years ago because we found we were actually getting better prices when the contracts were separate and they were unique services, because then we could get some of these contractors to bid that just did that one service, so.
Okay, that makes sense, thank you.
Any other questions from council for Jason on this item? Hearing none? Okay. Thank you, Jason, on that one, and don't go far. We have number 8 is review and discuss Hibbard Street reconstruction project change order number 1.
Okay, thank you. So I apologize, I have a change order before you before we started digging in the road, so that's a little unusual. But because of the project schedule change that we had earlier in the year, as many of you know, that we had a delay in awarding the project because we were waiting on the announcement of our grant. And obviously, we were successful getting our LRIP grant. Our current contract, the way it was awarded, had the understanding that it had to have a schedule change due to the delay in the project, but we awarded it with the original dates in the contract because it was something that we couldn't change based on the actual bids, because that's what the bidders had all submitted on, so we couldn't really adjust it in the agreement. And so that had a completion of this project originally at the end of August. So as of now, the contractors has 20-some days to complete the job, and we all know it's much longer than that. So there is a schedule in here the contractor has provided. He has assured us that the work will be completed this year. We are adjusting the dates into middle of November for substantial and final completion. Those dates coincide with the availability of asphalt, so he really has to meet those dates because he won't get asphalt and be able to pave after that. And there's obviously some significant liquidated damages in the contract for every day after that he is not done. I think it's in the tune of about $1,400 a day, so I don't think he wants to wait till spring. So with that being said, we had discussed it with him. He's drawn up the schedule. We've agreed to the same duration. We originally estimated this project at a little over 100 days worth of construction work, and that's what this works out to be. So it's really just shifting that duration of days to later in the year. We assumed that it would be this August start. I think we had August 3rd on there. He started this week with the tree removal, and so that gives him until mid-November to complete the work. So there's no price change to the contract for changing the schedule or anything. He obviously was gracious to delay the work and to honor his bid, obviously wait on the award. He also understood that he had another job he had to be at, so it worked out for him as well. So what we're doing tonight is we're bringing forward a change order just to kind of, I guess, effectively get the contract date set so it matches the schedule, and kind of the understanding that everybody had is the delay was caused by the grant and the award was slightly late, and we knew the contractor was not going to start this job until now. So we're just kind of going back and cleaning this up and making sure it's matching for everybody's sake. Any questions on the timeline or the change order?
My only question is there any issues with the cold weather? The work in the cold weather, could the schedule be all summer weather, and in November easily could have snow on the ground, and, as, concrete and or asphalt has different, properties, so are they, hopefully they're accounting for those?
You're very astute. There was snow on the ground last October, so we're crossing our fingers that we don't obviously have that. There obviously could be. I certainly can't guarantee there won't be an issue later on. But as of now, I think if you look at the contractor's schedule, the majority of the main work will be done in October, and at the end, there's just some restoration. He does have some asphalt in there, but what he did tell us was he is going to work with his asphalt contractor, and he did propose possibly coming in and doing some of the paving earlier as he gets work accomplished, so he's not saving all the paving until late, which will help shorten that timeline he needs to pave in the fall. So hopefully they can find a day. We certainly can pave in cold weather, not below zero, but we can pave when it's relatively cold. It's not a particularly big job. If we can get some of the paving done initially, we should certainly be able to get the rest of the paving done, I would guess, in a day. So hopefully we can find one warm day later on in the fall, where it warms up. With that, there is the restoration component to it. The good thing about this project is all the restoration is an erosion mat. There is no mulch or anything out there. It's all mat. So the good thing is, even if we get late, he can dormant seed it, put the mat on top of it, and it will remain intact till spring when it starts to germinate and grow. So even if we don't have the actual grass growing in fall, the first thing out of the gate in spring it'll take and it'll start up, and it'll all be protected from an erosion control standpoint. So again, the restoration probably shouldn't be an issue. If we get caught late, he can still get all of that down. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other questions for Jason on this item? Doesn't look like it. Okay. And we can move on then to number 9. And Jason, again, is review and discuss the wastewater treatment plant effluent screen replacement change order number 1.
Okay. So this is the project down at the plant that's underway for the screen replacement. There's a couple items here that got brought up during the construction. If you look at, I guess it would be right after the change order page itself, there is a kind of a table or a summary for change order 1. There are 3 items on there. One is there is some angle plate covers or stiffeners. The plate covers came slightly warped. It is a spec'd manufactured product. It's not uncommon from what I understand just due to the material, but there's some stiffeners that were recommended by the manufacturer to go ahead and correct that issue. There is some labor and some other things to install these. From my understanding, there was some mounting and some other things to do that. I don't know, from my standpoint, it was, the contractor did provide what was spec'd, and, so we went back and discussed it, and there is a small fee associated with that. So that's kind of the first component of the change order. The next component of the change order is there was some lights that were intended to be relocated at the wastewater treatment plant during the construction. They are explosion-proof or hazard-proof lights. Those, upon removal, there was some damage to them. They were corroded. We didn't feel like they were adequate to remount. I guess there was some rust and some other pieces. I didn't personally see them, but my understanding was that they really just needed to be replaced instead of relocated and reused. As of a result, we did spend some significant amount of time looking for some replacement lights that were cost-effective. Obviously, lights that are rated as a hazard light are more expensive. So you see there's 4 fixtures here in the amount of $2,570. That is a huge improvement over where we started. I think we were in the $6,000 range originally looking at those 4 lights. But we did find an equivalent that brought that cost down fairly significantly. And so it was something that met the specifications, and we recommended using those lights. And then lastly, there is a credit for some plumbing revisions. After we've looked at some of the piping at the plant and some of the installation that was required, there were a few recommendations from the contractor where we felt we could save some costs. So there was a credit here of some replumbing where we could reduce some fittings and some other things. And so there's a credit shown here for $314. So net change order amount is $2,664 for those 3 components. Obviously, it's for a much larger project, and the bulk of that additional cost obviously is associated with the replacement of lights that obviously we couldn't reuse. So I guess with that, was there any, obviously there's a lot of justification here for hours and things that support the cost of the lights and the plumbing and other things. I can go into some more detail if you'd like, but I just wanted to kind of see if anybody had any questions on the cost for the change order. I would note one other thing, and I think it's worth noting, and I'll give Kyle credit. We did have a cost that the contractor had brought forward for enlarging a skylight, just due to the new screen that we had purchased had two mounted motors. And one of the motors was protruding, and we didn't know that it came mounted on the screen from the factory. And so the backstory is that the contractor had to slightly enlarge in a skylight or an opening, and there was some additional cost for that. Kyle had basically challenged that and said, let's take a little closer look at that and understand that cost. We went back and discussed it with the manufacturer and indicated that we had sent some shop drawings to them that they had reviewed and not caught, or indicated that the skylight was insufficient. And I think it was about $1,000, and the manufacturer had agreed to pick up the additional cost of the $1,000. So it kind of goes back to another scenario I had a few years ago with the council, where we've kind of learned it never hurts to ask. And in this particular case, when Kyle asked me, I said, well, they'll never pay for that. And I think he said, well, let's ask. And I asked, and I said, it's $1,000 that they agreed to pick up. So we were very pleased with that, but I did want to just add that we are pretty diligent looking at these change orders and making sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's on some of this stuff. So I was very pleased that we could bring the change order to you in a lower amount, just due to the lighting and the skylight that the manufacturer picked up. So total cost was probably about $5,000 we reduced this change order by.
Thank you, Jason. Any other questions from council? Okay. We'll then move on. Jason, I think you're all done.
Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you. Moving on to number 10 then is review and discuss the water utility, the customer-led service line replacement ordinance. And this evening we have Michelle from Water and Light here. She's via Zoom. Hi, Michelle. Can you hear us okay? Oh. I was told Michelle was going to.
Well, Michelle's up there.
And we also have Joe from Water and Light with us this evening. So you have information in your packet, and you can start the show.
So the ordinance has to be in place per DNR requirements in order to apply for a grant, but also per PSC, Wisconsin Public Service Commission, in order to be able to use ratepayer funds to loan to a private customer. Ordinarily, nothing from the utility can be used on the private side. So the reasoning for the ordinance is to be able to accommodate both those, the DNR's request or requirement and the PSC requirement. I don't know if you have any questions specifically about the ordinance itself.
Joel, can you hear me?
Yes.
So this also coincides with Wisconsin State Statute 196.372, the financial assistance for lead containing customer side water services line. So we also had to follow those guidelines where an ordinance has to be in place, can't be unjust, unreasonable, or unfair. Any loan provided cannot be forgiven by the utility or the municipality, and the percentage or dollar amount provided must be equal for each owner and class of customers. So we had to follow 3 different organizations' guidelines when we created this ordinance, and we have covered all those bases.
Is there any?
That's all I had to add.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Any questions from council initially on the lead service line replacement ordinance? Mayor Tome?
I don't have any questions, but I guess I'll make a few comments since I'm on the Water and Light Commission, because I did have a few questions when this ordinance first came forward, because I had read some information a couple months ago about the possibility of federal funding kind of being brought through the state, as we had done a couple years ago.
Yep.
to help assist property owners with removing the lead lines on the customer side. And so I was sent the information that said that we need to have something in place to do that. So I think this is definitely a step in the right direction. It's something that I don't believe we had the ability to do until the state allowed us to do this just a couple years ago. So I think it's definitely good. We know we still have lead lines in the community, and if we can help offer some financial assistance or attract more grant money, I think it's very good for the city, very necessary.
I forget the exact dollar amount. I think the state for next year will have at least 45 million available, but there's a lot of cities in the state that are going to be applying for that money. So, yeah, that's the importance of having the ordinance in place so that so we can apply for those funds. So.
Right. Thank you.
They are planning 2 webinars, one in August and one in September. Hopefully they'll get some of those details figured out. They're hoping by October. So yeah, when in 2017, we received that grant of 300,000, we replaced 96 lead lines. So and we are down to just under 300 that are still in the community that we would like to see get replaced.
Okay. It's good news that we're working towards that.
Well, and the grant money is just for the private side.
Sure.
Our portion, the water and lights portion is still paid by the utility, so.
Okay. Ian?
So one quick thing, it's great that we know how many we have in the community. Will someone, Water and Light, and someone be reaching out to those homeowners that still have lead service lines? Because it's possible that not everyone that has one knows they have one.
As
Yeah.
you know, we've been doing that water meter, the AMI water meter changeout. We've been taking inventory of the homeowners' lead, or their side of the lateral. So we are keeping inventory, which is also going to be required by the Public Service Commission. And so when we find those lead laterals, we talk to the homeowner, give them some information, and if they're interested, we put them on a list. So we will, we've been reaching out, and when we know more, when this program is more put in place, we'll definitely get information out there by Bill Stuffer, Bill Message, newspaper, social media, definitely to get people aware and so we can get in touch with them.
Awesome, thanks.
Thank you, Michelle. Mayor Tom.
I'm not going to speak on behalf of Joe either, but sometimes it's hard to know whether you have a lead lateral or not until maybe like a road reconstruction where the pipe coming in the house may be metal, and then you reveal something that's, between the right-of-way and the home or whatever. So I think we've really focused on that when we've done reconstruction projects to look at neighborhoods that have possible lead laterals or possibly even anything on the utility side as well. So I do know that, being involved with the commission for a couple of years, that we have done extensive, I think, reach out to homeowners when we do reconstruction projects to let people know that there's either grants available or, to try to be proactive in getting rid of as many of these laterals as possible, because ultimately it's just a liability for the utility to have them, that you have a bad test and you've got hoops you have to jump through with the DNR and you have to spend more money to do more studies, but until you get rid of all the lead, it's a liability we have. So I think this is a great step in the right direction. I know there was a few language cleanups on the commission about having multiple written quotes from different vendors, because when we had done the grant process, I think there was a requirement to have qualified contractors, and I think now it's just basically a licensed plumbing contractor, but having multiple bids.
Right. The idea, obviously, to make that grant money go as far as what it possibly can.
Yep,
So.
you want it to be competitive.
Yes.
Yep. So I have no concerns with the ordinance. I think it's a great starting point.
Any other questions or comments or from council? All right,
Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. All right. We're moving on then to number 11, which is review and discuss a donation from American Packaging Corporation. Some information in the packet. Essentially, it's just a sign that has been placed at an intersection on near their parking lot. We have Zach Naven, Director of Public Works here, on Zoom call. Hi, Zach.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So to review the APC crosswalk sign donation, the American Packaging Corporation had some safety concerns with their employees crossing the street on APC Way. And with that, they decided to install some crosswalk signs and flashing beacons. Unfortunately, this was not discussed with city staff before the installation, and with that, they unintentionally installed signs in the city right-of-way. I explained to the APC staff that because they were installed in the right-of-way, that they would ultimately become city property, and it would be best to go through the donation form to acknowledge the signage for future records. So in 10, 15 years down the road, when those become a question, we have some documentation of what took place there. APC understands that with the donation, the city will become property of the city of Columbus and is subject to laws, policies, procedures of the city. APC also acknowledges that the city is not obligated to replace any donation if damaged or worn, as well as remove the donation if deemed necessary for any reason by city staff. There is no fiscal impact with this, as it was a donation that we will not see anything with, and with that, because this donation exceeds $1,000, it's required by policy to receive council approval. City staff has reviewed this donation and recommends approval, and you can see some of the signage attached in the memo.
Thank you, Zach. Any questions for Zach on this donation? I have no questions. Thank you, Zach. I guess we're going to move on to number 13. We'll move that forward to the next regular meeting then for approval. Number 13 is review and discuss address changes for the Scout Cabin, Rest Haven, the Scout Cabin and Rest Haven in Fireman's Park. Oh, did I skip one? I'm sorry. I got Zach again? Okay. Review and discuss the CHLPC's pavilion painting contract. Sorry about that, guys. Didn't mean to skip over you. We have two different parties that would like to speak on this. We have the CHLPC is here, as well as Zach Naven, because it kind of has to do with the DPW and the maintenance of the city facilities as well. I'm not sure who would like to go first. I have Carolyn Fredericks from CHLPC. Carolyn's giving you the floor if you'd like to go first.
I'll take this one off if you don't mind, Katie.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
Yep. So with this one, on December 2nd, the CHLPC submitted an agenda item for today's committee of the whole to have Fireman's Park Pavilion painting contract approved. Normally a group such as the CHLPC would bring requests such as this to a city staff member for review and ask the staff member to submit the memo with a request to the council once they had reviewed and approved it. This was however not the case, and the item was put on the agenda without any department review, approved without input from the city staff. And that probably partially falls under the case that at this time, if the past council recalls, there was a lot of discussion about who's in charge of what facilities. Ultimately that ended up kind of being all put under me, so there was just a little bit of oversight on this one, I think, whereas no one really took ownership of it. In reality, it should have been me. So on Wednesday, July 8th, I met with CHLPC and the approved contractor, Robbins Brothers Painting, to review the work, as it was, at this time I heard CHLPC mention different colors on the pavilion. Later that week, I was able to review the contract and committee of the whole minutes to find out that specific colors were approved back in December. On July 23rd, I met with the HLPC during their special projects meeting to notify them that if different colors were desired, the contract would need to come back to the committee of the whole since they had approved and signed off on the original contract, which is why this agenda item is on tonight. HLPC has stated on multiple occasions that maintenance will be the responsibility of the city, so future maintenance and upkeep of the paint is likely to be at city cost. The fiscal impact, there's no initial fiscal impacts to the city as the contractor is honoring his original contract and CHLPC has committed to covering any extra costs that may arise from the project. However, there are concerns that there will be more of a fiscal impact in years to come due to multiple colors on the pavilion, which will need more upkeep and take more time to maintain. As a reminder, this painting project was sponsored by the Merle Gunther Foundation and was intended to have no financial impact on the city of Columbus. So the recommendation review and decide whether to adhere to the initial contract or pursue a change in contract details at CHLPC's request. That's all I got.
Thank you, Zach. Questions or concerns from council on the contract before you? Trina?
Oh, no, no concerns. I guess color-wise, it looks like approximately 60 gallons of white, and then maybe 12 gallons of gray and 12 of black. I think just, and the colors are just for like stairs and post and floor. So I think we're going in a new and exciting direction color-wise. Sounds pretty basic.
Ian?
Yeah, and Trina's right, it is basically the same. And, well, I suppose we could let Carolyn speak or anything like that, but
Okay.
it really is going to be pretty much white. It's underdecking and a little bit of trim.
Carolyn, did you want to speak this evening? Thank you.
Well, first I'll just clarify what simple color changes they are. The base of the building will still be white. What we're requesting as far as slight color changes are the trim on the window. The windows themselves are black and all the mullions are black. That was done by the restoration company. We are requesting to have gray on the trim of the window, and then the rafter decking kind of on the upper veranda and the lower, for that to be black, to kind of highlight the architectural features of the building itself. Any other questions on colors at this point?
Windows and doors, gray.
Oh, yeah, window and door trim gray.
I guess I have a question for Zach. Zach, when you said you're concerned about the colors potentially having more maintenance, some colors more maintenance than others, can you elaborate on what maintenance you're referring to with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the concerns from my staff and myself included are that with multiple colors, if the city has to look to repaint this at some point or even spot paint different areas, there's a lot more time included to tape everything off and keep it clear like that versus just being able to spray one color across the board. Also a lot cheaper and easier just to buy one paint that you can throw in the sprayer and go. There are concerns regarding the black undertone of the porch and the roof. The concern that it'll show more dirt, spider webs, bird poop, all that stuff. Now, it's hard to prove that until we were to see it, but just kind of concerns that have been brought up and things that we wanted to consider before this move forward.
Okay, Ian?
So, and I totally get that concern, but honestly, painting it any color will be more maintenance. The only reason that you don't see anything now is it hasn't been painted since, I don't know who would know the last time it's been painted. The underside of those rafters have no paint on them. They are just gray wood. Any paint color, whether it's white, like in the original contract, or black, like the CHLPC wants to do, will show more spider webs and dirt. I don't think either one of those colors would show more than the other. They're both on the opposite end of the spectrum and will both show a lot. But, I mean, the black will help reduce So when you're standing inside of the pavilion and you're looking out, especially on that second deck, that'll help kind of get rid of your sight line of it, and it'll make it a lot cleaner looking. Both will have to be maintained and both will have to be cleaned, but I honestly don't think that there's a great difference in maintenance between the two colors. The CHLPC is doing a great job on everything they're doing with the building, and it's their recommendation, and I would strongly encourage to go along with it.
Trina?
Yes, I totally agree with
To
Ian.
answer Ian's question, the last time the building was painted. To answer Ian's question, the last time the building was painted was 1986. And the only other concern I've heard with that is that at this point the siding is so old, we should not expect this next paint job to last nearly as long, because at some point wood can just no longer hold paint because it has nothing to absorb into.
Thank you, Zach. Trina?
Yeah, thank you. I very much agree with Ian on following the CHLPC's recommendation for paint colors. I think it would be rather foolish to try to have everything white so that someone could paint quickly with a spray can for future maintenance. It's a treasure of a building that we're lucky to have, and we need to highlight some of the architecture.
Okay, thank you.
Katie, can I just mention a few other
Yes,
things? I think with respect to some of the new council members and newer city staff, I'd like to go over a few facts and make it brief, the history on CHLPC and the pavilion projects and procedures we've followed. About 2 years ago, John Salzwedel here, our vice chairperson of HLPC, set up a meeting with the mayor and the city administrator for the four of us to go over the procedure and paperwork required for the improvement projects CHLPC was interested in doing at the pavilion. The proper procedures were followed, required paperwork submitted, and the window restoration and exterior painting projects were approved by City Council in December of 2019, and the contracts signed by the mayor. October of 2019, CHLPC hired an architect to draw up plans and specification sheets on an ADA-compliant first-floor entryway at the pavilion. We attended a council meeting to ask for approval of review of the plans and specification sheets by Attorney Johnson. It was decided and approved at that time to have the city engineer, Jason Letha, look over the documents and work with the architect on any changes that were needed, and that was done. I met with Kyle 4 weeks ago and was informed at that time that Zach, as Public Works Director, was given the responsibility of overseeing all the city facilities in regards to maintenance and improvement projects for review. On behalf of HLPC, I submitted an agenda item form I received from the city clerk and a copy of the original contract with Roberts Brothers Painting to City Hall on Thursday morning for the council packet prior to the one you did receive. CHLPC has proven to be proactive in understanding and following the procedures set by the city. The agenda items form and supporting documents in regard to the CHLPC improvement projects has always been provided to council by CHLPC. If there are changes in procedures or the paperwork requirements, we would request that notification of these changes go to all the boards, committees, commissions, so we all know that what they are and we can abide by those changes in procedure. CHLPC is in agreement that a request for an amendment to the original contract should be brought to council for approval. Our council liaison, Gray, did request this immediately following our special pavilion projects meeting in July, and to be put on the regular meeting agenda. As far as addressing maintenance concerns, the city is benefiting greatly from the generosity of the Merle Gunther Foundation on the window restoration and exterior painting. The $100,000 window restoration project retained the original wood windows, which were removed, repaired all broken mullions, and replaced broken glass panes and were reglazed. The mechanisms of the windows were tuned up as well, new sash cords installed, and the window hardware was stripped of layers of paint, providing ease of use. The window project also saw both the interior and exterior of the windows painted. All these improvements will provide savings on utility cost and defer deterioration and provide less maintenance issues for years to come for the city. Power washing, removing, peeling paint, caulking and repairing, filling wood prior to painting on a 100-year-old building that has not been addressed for 30 years will also positively preserve the building and defer any maintenance issues for years to come. Being cognizant of the city budget and the community's desire for a direct line to CHLPC, in November of 2015, CHLPC initiated a Pavilions Projects Fund, which to date has received over $600,000 in donations, all going into restoration and improvement projects for the pavilion. These include the addition, as most of you know, addition of the new elevator, bathroom remodels, the addition of ADA bathrooms on the second floor, painting of the ballroom, original wood floors refinished, electrical upgrades, a utility sink and new shelving in the coat room, window restoration. We have phase 3 of the window restoration, and that's the replacement of the original windows on the Park Avenue side. Will be done in fall of 2020, and then the exterior painting project. Through these private donations, CHLPC is honored to foster the restoration, preservation, and improvement projects for such an important community building, while alleviating impact on the city's taxpayers. We are appointed as preservationists to advocate and make sound decisions regarding historic buildings, and we believe our track record is proven. We would like to request approval for an amendment to the original color scheme from the contract to include the gray and black accent colors. These terms are already agreed upon from Mike Roberts of Roberts Brothers Painting. And as Zach mentioned, any additional labor costs will be covered by CHLPC. General maintenance of the city facilities does fall upon the city regardless of the color palette. With respect for the contractor's scheduling, we would appreciate a vote on the amendment as early as possible. He's waiting to order paint until we know what we're doing. So thank you for your consideration. So
Thank you, Carolyn.
questions, comments,
Mayor
concerns?
I literally have to leave in
I
one
know he
minute, I'm
doesn't.
sorry. I don't care about the paint, really. I mean, the recommendation is fine to me. My concern is, I have a copy of the old contract that shows basically what the original agreement was, and I think if there's going to be an amendment, I just don't see anything formal in here that puts it onto a piece of paper to say, here's the change in contract. I know that you just said that Roberts Brothers has acknowledged that change. Is that verbal? I mean, is there something?
Yes, that was through conversation to request that and have discussion about it, and they are absolutely fine with it.
Okay, I mean, since this contract had a signature to execute it and we're amending it, I just don't know the process that you're asking us to use.
Would you like an amended contact, I guess, from Roberts Brothers?
I would ask Paul, I just don't know. I mean, this is weird because it's a donation, it's going through several different channels, et cetera, and if the council approves it, you have our verbal approval, but if something has to be signed, what gets signed to amend the original
Okay.
contract? That's my only concern.
Yeah, a simple change order would take care of that. I don't have the original contract in my hands, but if it cites something, paragraph 3 is changed from this to this, that's really all that you need to do. But it should, if that contract, the original contract was approved by council at some point in time, I presume,
Yep.
then that change order should come back around and come through.
It's-
And it's just a formality more than anything else, I would think.
Yeah, and then I think that's why it's kind of following the channel it is right
Right.
now, but I just don't know besides the vote, whether we're actually impacting the original signature is my concern. If
Right.
there's an additional cost that's incurred by the change of paint or whatever, it's not a fiscal impact to the city. However, we want to make sure that we have an enforceable contract.
Okay.
In case the person
So
you
is
spoke
that
to.
something that, Paul, that CHLPC can?
As far as I'm concerned, you can certainly rough something out. If you want me to take a look at it, I'd be happy to. But if you and Roberts get it worked out so how you want it, and then just run it back through the council at the next meeting for approval, that would seem to be the thing to do.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
Mayor Tom, were you finished?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Any other questions? Ian?
So can the council agree that we'll be okay with the CHLPC's paint recommendation so they can move forward with painting? It's already been power washed and is ready to be painted.
I believe, speaking with Mike Roberts today, I believe they may start with caulking and some of the white paint as early as tomorrow. You know, so he would like to, of course, kind of know where we're going from there. He's going to, you know, they want to stay on schedule as well, and we respect that.
Sure, sure.
Mhm.
Are we
I would-
asking, I guess, for a nod and a wink? Kyle, can you chime in?
Yeah, I mean, prior to approval, that would happen in 2 weeks, I presume, that they'd be asking for consensus, which wouldn't be something that the city would be held to, I guess. So, you know, pending the change order, you know, I think it was October last year, and now at the very end, it's changing, so that's putting the city council on the position of having to hurry up and get it done. But, you know, typically, we would wait for the normal process, which is 2 weeks from today. But that's, you know, it's not possible to give full final approval in this meeting.
Correct. Right. I realize we'll have to come back in 2 weeks to the regular meeting to get a formal vote on that.
I am seeing a lot of shaking heads in your direction that indicate, yeah, that the paint colors, the paint colors are good. As long as everything is cleared up with, you get a new contract
And do the change order as
and do the
Paul
change order.
requested. Okay.
Yeah, follow
All
the
right.
process. I'm okay.
All right, we'll make sure we get that done and
Okay.
have it in the packet for the next regular meeting, correct?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Zach.
Gotta head out.
All right, bye, Mayor Tom.
Thank you.
Yes. No, nope. Okay. Now we're on number 13. Okay. Review and discuss address changes for the Scout Cabin, the Rest Haven, or in Fireman's Park. We have Amy Jo on the line for this agenda item. She suggested having a address of 1049B and 1049A. Hi. So, Amy Jo, you can head this off, I guess. I was gonna add more, but go ahead.
Just a little recap.
Yep.
So everything within Fireman's Park, the open shelters and our rental facilities have the address of 1049 Park Avenue. And for ease of registration, per se, or GPS, when families have reunions or they're using the venues, people are showing up at other people's events. So having 1049A or 1049B was as simple as suggestion that Pat had come up with. And I checked with the historic preservation specialist, and he said that addresses change over time. It does not change the status of the facility. So I'm just asking for that approval to make that request, that address change.
And it's my understanding this address change, you know, as you said, it's more for the events that are booked. It's not like these addresses are really getting mail or anything of that nature. It's more of like a GIS type situation where people will know where to go if they have a party
Yeah, and
booked
then
or
we
something.
could, right, and then we can put an address on each of the buildings too, like a sign in front of Rest Haven that says 1049B, so when they enter the park, they know where they're going to.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of for direction.
As opposed to
It's a
just
little
saying
cleaner.
a scout cabin, or, because some people from out of town, they're like, where the heck is that? And this way, at least, even in, like Google Maps and things like that, will have this indication there. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any questions or concerns, Council? Trina?
Oh, not a concern. This sounds like a really good idea. It's hard to describe what a cabin versus a haven might look like. So I think this will save visitors some time in driving around and reparking. So glad to see this.
And some awkward glances if you show at somebody else's party. Okay. Anybody else? Any questions?
That's the wrong party.
Yep. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of nods, so we're gonna move that forward, Amy Jo.
Wonderful, thank you, have a good night.
All right, thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
All right. Okay, moving on to number 14 is review and discuss Google Voice options. So Kyle, as per the last committee of the whole meeting, we had Kyle look into those Google Voice options for the phone numbers. Ian's suggestion that we all kind of were curious about, so Kyle's put together some info about that for us.
All right, in front of you, you should have the memo on the Google Voice options, and staff helped kind of compile a lot of this information. I'll start by saying that there's some different price structures and some different options on getting a Google phone number. But before that, I think it's important to recognize the issues that we may need to work through, because one of the things is if it's a Google number for official business, then the city could have an obligation to provide information and open records requests and things like that. And if you're using your primary phone with a Google number and still using that for communication, the logs on your personal phone are still subject to open records requests, even if you're using a Google phone number to direct the communications to your private device. So I think we should be clear that using it in that way with one device and having a Google number add, funnel contacts to you still puts your personal device at risk of open records requests and that whole process for having someone else look through your entire phone to determine what's city related and what's not city related, and just the hassle of that. So I think that's a major hurdle. But after that, we still then have the options of using a free number or using a paid number. And how then, if we're going to use paid numbers, who's going to manage that? Are we going to reduce the stipends that are paid to council members if they're not maintaining two devices, and we're instead funding the Google devices, Google contact information? So there's a lot of information here, but I think one of the big hurdles before we get too far down the road is whether or not it makes sense to try to use this Google method versus having the two device method, which keeps your official business device segregated from your private business.
Trina?
Yeah, I guess looking at the Google Voice options, I tend to prefer just having a cheap second cell phone. If we're probably looking at a standard $20 per month per user, almost might as well have a super cheap, phone from Target, Walmart, what have you, a phone that costs $20, and not have the complicated layers of pushing your Google number through your phone and trying to access it, and not having any customer support available. I don't think Google really helps because you're pushing it through to different phones and different companies, and I just don't know that they have the ability to really help you with customer support.
Pete?
I want to echo that. I think the two devices, one for business and one for personal, I think that makes a whole lot more sense and takes care of this issue.
I'm going to chime in here too. So really quick, I just want to go back a little ways because what started this whole conversation was really just about what should be listed on the city website, right? So what should be, you know, our method of contact. And we all kind of agreed that, you know, we all want to have a phone number on there. Since I started, it's sort of been up in the air. It's up to the individual council member what they feel comfortable with, if they feel comfortable with providing their own personal cell phone number for their website, or if they chose, they could get their own, I guess, cheaper phone that's used strictly for city business. And I don't know if that's necessarily what we should be discussing here this evening is that portion of it. But, you know, if we were going to go down this Google road, regardless, I think Kyle was just trying to point out, he was just trying to point out the fact that that doesn't solve that issue. That's not just like the safe route, just taking that Google thing. So depending upon, you know, if you went this Google route, depending upon which cell phone, if you had a cell phone only for city use, or if you had a cell phone that is your personal use as well, regardless of this Google number could go through either or. But I think when it comes to this, seeing this plan on paper, turns out, you know, that personal Google numbers are free. Is that what you found out, Kyle? However, as soon as you are, you know, the city of Columbus or a business, they are no longer free. And I think what we saw the value in the fact that we thought it was free, and then we also saw the value in the fact that maybe we could get numbers that stay with the city, and we could do them in a sequence, so it might be easy for residents if, you know, District 1, you know, turns to somebody new is elected, and that person is then awarded that number. However, when you look at the cost now, is that a viable option? I think is what we should focus on discussing. And I think in general, just be aware that you either can have a personal phone, or you can have, I guess, your city council independent phone, or you can have that go to your personal phone, but you would have to comply if ever asked to turn over your personal phone. So, Ian.
Yeah, yes, I always use it as a personal user, so that's why I thought it was free. It makes sense that as a business or entity, it does have a charge. But still, I mean, $12 a month per user under the business plan is pretty slight. That could easily, I would personally be fine with that coming out of the monthly stipend. And you could still have it go to your personal phone, like if you have your personal phone listed now, or to a cheap burner Walmart phone if you wanted. But it would still, I think, have a great value of that phone number for each alder always being the same, even when the alder person in that position changes over. Not like having designated phone numbers that are forever is a really great thing. Plus, it could have a lot of benefits for other city employees too. I mean, like, look at the pandemic that we're going through now and the way we have to change things. How much will we have to change again in the future? Will more city employees have to work from home in the future if we get another spike? Can the Google phone help them work from home easier? The answer to that question is yes, it would help them work from home easier. This isn't just a phone, it isn't just on one device. You can use it on multiple devices, multiple different uses. I mean, and it's not just a phone number, it's email, it's all sorts of things. Like, it's a pretty minor cost, honestly.
Thank you, Ian. Paul.
I guess I wasn't here last week for the discussion, but I'm absorbing what we're saying today. And if we're looking for the consistency of phone numbers, I agree with that. Like, you know, District 2 alderperson always has the same phone number, it says transfer down hands. And right now, we are currently getting a $50 stipend. Could we do away with the $50 stipend and just have the city purchase 6 cell phones that would be approximately $50 in cost, and then that phone would then just be, we'd turn it in as we leave the position, or we'd get it when we get elected in.
So I just wanted to bring up really quick too, just, that's a valid point. So if we did choose to go down this road, I think Kyle's other concern that he mentioned was that who would manage this and who would, I would imagine, I've never set up a Google phone account, but, you kind of have to manage what number it's going to versus what, and choosing the number in general, but who's going to manage that from the city's side? And, we got to think about that. Even if it's relatively simple, there's still somebody on the backside of things having to input all of these numbers and keep everything straight. So that does cost the city money as well. And so who would manage that, and how would that be worked out? Kyle, I don't know if he was about to chime in there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that is something that would have to be managed. We have staff is just adding one more, thing that is on them to manage. The other question I know came up during some research on this is, sort of the form and format of the phone numbers. And so if you have residents and it doesn't look like a normal Columbus number, and I honestly don't know if we got these, what they would look like. But if it's not a normal Columbus number, are we having people having to pay long distance, or, if you're dialing with a traditional, a certain type of the population is going to have more of a traditional long distance plan. How's it going to look and what's it going to cost and things like that was another concern.
Ian, I'm going to speak. Thank you. I can see you. Hold on. I did have a Google number through work. I didn't set it up. I didn't manage it when I worked for Steinhoffels, which was based in Waukesha, and the area code was 262, and it was transferred to my cell phone. So I think that part would be okay, that it looks normal. You certainly they wouldn't pay any kind of fee to call you, but I think the concern would be like if we had to choose, California area code or prefix or something that the people that are generally calling, a lot of the people that call versus email are going to be our older citizens, and they may look at that and think, oh, well, that's a weird number. I don't know or just even have that concern, even if we know they're not going to be paying long distance or whatever, but they may perceive it that way. And I think that's a concern. Go ahead, Ian.
It is 100% the user's choice what your area code and phone number is. There is absolutely no concern with that with the Google phone number. You pick where you look like you're calling from. So if you want a Columbus area code and phone number, you get a Columbus area code and phone number. You want to look like you're calling from Spokane, Washington, you can look like you're calling from Spokane. You choose the phone number. It is, and yes, there would never be a long distance charge regardless of where it's coming from, but that's beside the point. We can choose Columbus phone numbers.
Trina.
I guess I'm just really disinterested in going the Google Voice route. I see it as being too complicated to keep up with, too many problems likely to arise depending on what kind of phone service you have and what kind of service the person, community member is calling from. When you call them back, does it show the number that your number and not the assigned number?
It'll show the Google number.
So whenever they call you, Trina, it's gonna when they call you, it's gonna look like it's coming from your own phone number. Is that correct, Ian?
It'll look like it's coming from the Google phone number if you're calling using your Google account.
I know, because the only problem I ever had with it when I did use it for work was that when people called me, I would know that it was a work phone call on my personal cell phone because it was coming from a specific phone number. I wasn't able to get the phone number that was calling me to directly call them back. So,
You probably didn't have it fully down, like you'll need a separate app that you're using. You probably didn't have it integrated into your phone completely.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know if personally, I think, sounds great when it's free. I think we can get the same thing, the same benefits by if somebody doesn't want to list their personal cell phone number, then don't list your personal cell phone number and use your stipend if that's how you choose to use it, and get a different phone. That's where I'm at. Because I think regardless, I don't think the benefit is enough to the city residents. Because I think that's what we were really considering, and now it doesn't seem like there's much benefit at all.
They would always have a phone number to call.
They can still always have a phone number to call if you take your stipend and you purchase a phone to.
But I mean, a forever call after someone else is in the same position. It's the same phone number.
Well, again,
Pete.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I mean, again, if we're gonna go that route, I think I'm more in line with, just getting everybody like a district phone. If we're gonna do keeping the numbers, otherwise, just get the burner phone and then just go with that.
I think when we brought this discussion up, I guess my number one concern was the fact that our residents weren't being able to reach their alders. And we all sort of brought this discussion up just so that we can come to a uniformed agreement of what number or what methods of contact should be listed on the city website and what methods of contact should be required. And I think that regardless of how we get there, our residents need to be able to call and email us. And I think that can still be achieved regardless of whether I don't think we need to spend money on a Google phone number. I don't think the benefits are, I guess, as much as I would have hoped that they would have been. And then I also just think that if you choose to not want calls on your personal cell phone, you can still have the opportunity to purchase a burner phone with your stipend. Is everybody okay with? Ian, did you want to mention anything else? Or are you okay with moving on? So I guess I give Kyle direction. So,
My only other question would be, have we reached out to a company that does all of our tech and things? Is this something that
does what? I'm sorry.
What?
You cut out. Reached out to a company that what?
I can't remember the name of them, the people that provide all of our tech services.
Oh, OnTech, yes.
Yeah, is this a service that they could potentially provide for us? Or simply, like, this is a lot more simple than what I think a lot of us are thinking it is. It's a really basic thing. It's something that, I mean, a lot of companies use, just like one of your previous employers do. Like, it's a pretty simple thing. They might have a similar service that they could offer us as well, or they might be able to just get the Google going for us easily.
So Ian, I think my struggle with this is that I'm not even confident that every council member has a phone that would support an app that you are suggesting that they use. So for example, if you're saying that I may not have had the app installed on my phone correctly, or that's why I couldn't see the number of who was calling me, I wasn't able to call those people back if they didn't leave me a voicemail with a number. So that was a huge problem for me. And I'm not sure that everybody on council has that capability of downloading an app, or if they have that type of you know, that type of device. So, I'm seeing a lot of, I guess, support for just, kind of continuing on with what we're currently doing, but requiring council members to post a phone number regardless of whether it is their own personal phone or a phone that they purchase with their stipend. Pete Adams?
And just a quick update, I was kind of waiting for the outcome of this before I was gonna settle on what number I'm gonna bid. I'll get a burner phone and then get my number to, the powers that be later on this week.
Lisa would be the one who would take your number and put that on the
Okay.
website. So I guess after this council meeting, if we could all agree to provide a phone number, Kyle, should we provide that directly to Lisa, or should we just provide it to you?
Why don't you provide it to Lisa, because that's the most direct route, and then I'll check in with her in a few days and see if there's anything we're still missing.
Sure.
And just to highlight, individually, you can still decide to use a Google number.
Right.
A private Google number that you set up on your
Correct.
own. So you still have that capability. If you feel more comfortable with the open records concerns and maintaining two separate devices, and even if you have two separate devices and you still want to incorporate a Google number, that would be up to each of you individually to still have that option. So we're not taking that away from anyone, just want everyone to understand there's potentially a risk associated with it.
Sure. Thank you.
If I may comment, when I was elected, I had not gotten a burner phone yet, and I was talking with Pat, and you said if I don't have my phone number in my, let's say, like a new phone number, then my personal number would just automatically do on a website. I said, okay, well, I don't really want that, so I got the new phone number and I submitted it, and it never made its way to the website though. Up until probably last week, it had not been on there. So I just, what I'm saying, I'm not trying to throw a city in the bus, but I did everything I had to do, and it wasn't put up on the website. So then, so then if you're suggesting that we didn't give the information, what we did, and it just wasn't properly posted.
Sure. Okay, so should we, I think, obviously we should provide people time if they want to provide, or if they want to purchase a phone separate from their private number. How long do we, should we, so we're going to provide the numbers directly to Lisa, and Lisa will have access to update that. And then Kyle, if you just want to follow up. But I think, 2 weeks? Ian, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Everybody okay with that? 2 weeks? Okay. All right.
Are you saying 2 weeks upon being elected into office?
Well, 2 weeks, I guess, from today, we'd like to make sure that there's numbers for everybody here listed, but that's a good point. That's a good point. Does anybody have any input on, Paul asked, are we saying 2 weeks upon somebody new being elected should provide that?
No, it should be provided right away once you're elected, I think.
Well, if somebody needed to purchase a phone, Ian, I guess that's, if somebody wanted to do that, yeah. So to give them time to do that, I think that's appropriate as well. Okay. All right. Thank you, Kyle.
Just one last thought. Does it cost us much or anything to get just more city hall phone numbers, like landlines that can be transferred to any phone?
That's something we would have to check with our phone provider on. We have, I think we just renewed with, was it AT&T? And it's not like a voice over IP setup. So it would be more of a landline. But we could look at that, and I don't know if they sell it in blocks of numbers and how close to the end of the block we might be. But we could look at that if the council would like us to.
So would that be a landline that would be at my house?
I
didn't
don't
so.
think.
So a landline here, so I'd have like a phone here.
And then they
at
would
City
have
Hall?
to try to set up the forwarding to another number, which of your choosing.
Yeah, like we could forward a landline number to a number of your choosing during specific hours, and you could call a phone number for your voicemails, just like we worked anywhere else.
I'm not interested in having Kyle look into that. That's my, go ahead, Trina.
I guess although I like the idea of having a phone number here, I think it would be a little problem because you wouldn't know until you had decided to call the voicemail to find out you had a message. And knowing myself, I probably wouldn't be checking it quite enough.
Yeah, and that's just,
You have the ability to transfer a landline to any number with our current system.
well, that's I think the main point so if you wanna do a Google number on your own and transfer it, or do a Google number or the burner phone, I mean, you're just adding an extra layer right now from City Hall, and it's kind of the same process, only a little bit different. I think we're kind of all in the agreement that if you wanna do the Google number, you can do the Google number, or get a burner phone, use your private number. But I think that's kind of where we're going right now.
Thanks, Pete. Hey, Kyle, you have the direction you need? Okay. All right, we're gonna move on to number 15. Review the draft RFP for the statue receiver. And Kyle is going to graciously lead us off on this. This was emailed out to review. This is only a draft. It's important that council understands that timelines and things of that nature could change, and we don't necessarily have to follow any of this, but Kyle was gracious enough, I guess, to put it together to kind of give us an idea.
Yes. So I used a format that we used, I think, for the Roadmap 2050 plan, and, sort of exchanged information in there. This is probably more of a formal document than you would need. And I think I highlighted too that, anything in here that you don't like or you'd like to add or you'd like to subtract or change, it's all completely open to your wishes at this point. My goal was to get something that we could use as a method to figure out what's next. We've had interest from, across the state. We've had interest from private individuals in the county. We've had interest from local groups, but what we haven't had is sort of a comprehensive proposal about, here's what we want to do, here's where we're going to do it, here's how we're going to use it. And so, that's, I think, what we've been missing is there's a lot of people that have indicated some interest, but nobody's gone to the effort at this point to present something. I believe there is one that is in progress. It might even be completed. It just hasn't been delivered yet. So that kind of leaves us in this limbo of still needing to have sort of a final disposition at some point and work through this in some sort of manner.
Pete?
The only thing, in the permissibility, the respondent shall present information related to their ability to display a statue as they propose. And I'm not sure on what all zoning things are involved in this. It might be helpful for people who are trying to figure out if they can do this, to have all the zoning requirements just kind of labeled and listed out, so that would help them move forward.
The goal of this is to actually put the onus back on the respondent, because if you're a residence or you're a highway business or you're an industrial or something else, you're going to have different zoning variations. So the entire zoning code is fair game as far as depending what zone you want to put this in. That's what dictates. And so, depending on what organization or person or group wants it, it's going to be different. And my goal is to not have it go to a group that ends up saying, well, this is what we want to do with it, and we say, but you can't do that there because of X, Y, and Z. So before we go down that road, I want them to make sure, if you're in the city of Columbus, you'd be working with Matt. and you would just, you know, it's not, go research on your own and good luck. It's call Matt.
Matt Schreiber
Matt
is,
Schreiber.
just to make sure,
Yep.
is the economic development coordinator.
Yep, and also the zoning administrator, and work with Matt to say, here's what we want to do, here's where we want to do it, and he'll help you figure out the setbacks and what's permissible and not. And so, you know, we're here to help on that, but we do want the proposal to have gone through that step versus, here's the proposal, we have no idea if it can actually work or not, so.
So I mean, I have no problems with this RFP, other than I don't know that we have to follow that strict of a extended timeline. However, we have not yet received anything, from any entities. It is my understanding, like Kyle said, that there's a group that potentially is working on one. But I don't have any specific, issues with it other than, the process seems a little drawn out, but, and, you know, technically, just moving a statue in late November or, you know, so that's kind of, I'm hopeful that this would wrap up previous to that, but.
I do think it's safe to have a proposal or due by, I mean, you know, just, otherwise, where do you draw the line, you know?
That's, yeah.
So I think it is important to have that, but some of this might be superfluous, but, I mean, again, you have to have some kind of guidance, you know, for the procedure, and I guess to Peter's point regarding the, you know, like the zoning, you know, like maybe just a verbiage, a sentence saying the onus is, and maybe it does say that, but maybe not as explicit in bold and blinking lights. The onus is on the petitioner to satisfactorily adhere to all zoning or a lot of the, you know, as found in the city code. My 2 cents.
I like that, and it is, I think, we want it to be their responsibility to make sure that gets done. You know, my only goal is to have that as part of the submission, not later on that they've agreed to meet all the rules, but they haven't even evaluated the rules. So I just, you know, trying to, you know, eliminate the possibility of finding a great proposal that can't be done.
Right. And also take some of the weight off of city staff. I also wonder if we should discuss whether or not we're accepting proposals from literally anywhere in the world, or are we accepting proposals from Columbia County, Wisconsin, you know, where, and also to give city staff the direction I think that they need. So if they were all of a sudden tomorrow bombarded with all of these proposals, what is the will of the council? What should get through and what shouldn't? You know, so-and-so wants it in his backyard. Well, you know, that's gonna help. This is gonna help with that because of the zoning and things like that. But, you know, I think where do we draw the line? Pete, go ahead.
I think the priority should be for the Columbus community first, so you can have like a different set of priorities. So priority 1, be Columbus. You know, priority 2, Columbia County. Priority 3, Wisconsin. And I'd be willing to bet you that somebody within those 3 priorities will take it.
Okay.
And then close out everything from out of state and from Canada.
Okay. Trina?
Oh, I guess I might want to have
see.
something in here. I don't know if the city would be willing to possibly undertake the cost of moving the statue if it's a location within the city. Maybe take that amount off of the maintenance amount
The
available.
$3,600 that's going with it?
Mm-hmm.
I think that we kind of agreed that the $3,600 would help cover the cost of them moving it. Is that, I can't really remember.
We did discuss that it didn't, the city was not interested in keeping the funds that were, you know, when we took ownership of the statue in 2012, I think there was discussion that we would not be keeping the leftover money. I intentionally did not list that in the RFP because I'm hopeful that
Thank you.
that's not the primary goal of someone, is just to get the money.
Thank you.
That they truly have a plan for the statue, but it could be used in any manner, and that should be enough because we moved it relatively easily. It's not as heavy as I guess we anticipated, so.
Okay. Ian? Oh, I'm sorry,
Oh,
Trina, you weren't finished. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a little extra boost for someone in the area if they happen to have the perfect zoning and a place that's, you know, not on the main highway, but would be viewable to the public. Just want to give some extra preference.
Ian?
I don't think that any sort of preference needs to be outlined in the RFP. I think we can entertain anything from anywhere. It's going to be up to us to decide where it goes. So I don't think we need to set out like zone 1, zone 2, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, we will decide amongst the candidates. So obviously, most likely the will of the council would be local if there was a local one available, but I don't think we should cut out people that are further away because we might not get a good local candidate. Doesn't make sense.
To tangent off of that, I somewhat agree. However, if you open up to Tokyo or Paris or whoever wants it, you're putting so much more work on staff to try to now figure out who might be the better candidate. So now you could have a pool if you stay within Wisconsin, let's say 1,000 people. If you go without borders, it'd be 1 million, and then how do we determine who's the best recipient of the statue?
I think we're overselling the fiberglass statue in Columbus, Wisconsin.
Okay. So if we don't have any borders, fine with that. I think that as long as city staff has a direction and understands that you know, if they meet the criteria listed here, that we are weeding out what we need to weed out by adopting this. Is everybody comfortable with the language in there then? Kyle?
The only thing I would add is I did this, kind of on the fly. August 4th is the RFP issue date, which is obviously today. We would likely not be issuing this until final approval in 2 weeks. But if people know that this is kind of the format, they would still be able to kind of prep. And then even if we decided to change the process slightly, you'd have a really good core product to work from, even if we tweaked this. So I anticipate if this RFP is adopted, that it would be August 18th would be the issue date.
Okay.
And I'm still okay with September 4th being the deadline if you think that's enough time. We could always extend it if we don't have enough interest.
Council, how do we feel about the September 4th still? I think that's fine. As far as right now, like Kyle said, we can always extend it. Okay. All right, Kyle, do you have everything you need as far as direction on that? Okay, thank you. The next item on our agenda, number 16, is to convene to close session per state statute 19.85 sub 1 sub E, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conducting other public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, specifically to discuss potential developments in the city of Columbus. We have no other items on our agenda this evening, and we will not be returning to the air. So thank you, everybody. Have a good night, and I will take a motion to move into closed session.
Alder Piper will make a motion to adjourn into closed session.
For the reasons.
Alder Adams seconds.
All right, I have a motion and a second to go into the closed session for the reasons stated. All those I'll actually, Pat, take the roll. Thank you.
Adams?
Aye.
Gray?
Aye.
Piperone?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, we are now in closed session.